very high about looking.
Top
Audio's
level.
back on.
Top.
Very
Learn from the
nice.
father.
He's the
No,
one that
no, they didn't learn from
The
me. I'm
father
telling
is
you.
happy to see them again.
But the Rebbe saved them. The Rebbe brought, if not the Rebbe and the Shliach and the Shliach that was there where they were, I would not have them today. And I don't even know if they would be, forget about religious, alive
Yeah.
even.
Mhm.
Oh, Hashem.
So we have what to be grateful for.
And that.
Every day I'm grateful.
Praise, thank you.
Yes. Question. Okay, so tonight is a Yom Tov. We need to say for Yom Tov to everybody. So good Yom Tov, everybody. Tonight is Yud Beis Tammuz. And um, what happened was when Hasidim found out that the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, is out of jail, but then he needs to go on like to a specific city far away from everybody. So they were wondering if they should be happy or not. So they were back and forth thinking like, oh, they're not able to see the Rebbe yet. It's at that point they thought it would take about 3 years till they would finally be able to see the Rebbe again. But on the other hand, at least he wasn't on death row. Like, there was at least at that point there wasn't the consequence of death at that by then, but after Gimel Tam, so they weren't sure.
How long he
So
was in
really,
jail?
they're supposed to be not that long.
Which one?
You was it Tesla Sivan? So was it Tesla? Let's say 50, whatever, 18 days, something like that. So
But Gimel Tammuz was the day they took him off of death row.
or at least not even that. Even by then it was already acquitted to just 3 years of exile. Meaning
Later.
before there was a 10-year sentence to be in like in Siberia, maybe in the Gulag, I'm not really sure, but 10-year sentence, and then it was down to 3 years. So at that point, the Hasidim knew that they're supposed to be excited and happy for this change of events. Obviously, like what they were worried about beforehand was a lot worse. What could have happened? But on the other hand, like for the Rebbe to be in such a place with no connection, no physical connection to the Hasidim is also an issue. And besides, the Hasidim themselves want to see the Rebbe. So they made a niggin that is called the Yud Beis Tammuz niggin, but it has a feeling. It seems like it's not a geula dikin niggin. It's not like a happy-go-lucky type of song. It's more of a serious, a longing to be close to the Rebbe. So the first, there's three files, there's three stanzas, three parts of the song. The first part is um, thinking about how it was back in the day, how wonderful it was to be close with the Rebbe. And then the second part, which is high, and it gets to a higher level, a higher, let's see, higher octave, whatever it is. Then it's talking about how much they miss the Rebbe, how at this point of time they really want to be close to the Rebbe and he's so far away. So there's this longing to be close to the Rebbe. But then the third stanza is about how wonderful it'll be, how exciting and wonderful it'll be when they'll actually be able to meet the Rebbe. So this is the Megillah. Miriam, ma, 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 ya, yada, ya, ma, 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 ya, ma, 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 ma. Ya ma 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 ma. Amen. Time,
Hi.
time.
L'chaim.
Every Rebbe of Chabad had his own song, right? Yes. Oh, more this.
Yeah,
Who did the Shalom actions? Our Rebbe.
who made up the tune?
Oh,
It's a good question. It's a good question. I mean, the story is from already from the Alter Rebbe. When he was released from prison, he wrote that he was released from prison. What was happening? He was up to that part of Tehillim, and that's how he came out when he was saying part of the Shalom. That's when he was notified
mhm.
when he left, when he went out of jail.
How many years after he went out of jail he came to America?
So,
Time?
so the previous Rebbe. So this was in 1927,
So,
getting close to 100 years. So 1927. So let's go through the story. What was going on? Um, Over here, we live in America.
it was Lenin back then or Stalin when he was in
This
jail?
was Stalin. I
Oh,
mean, he was already alive before he was born in 1880. So by 1920, he was already old,
Grade one before.
wasn't young. I mean, it was.
right, right. But I mean, it wasn't that great. Even Russia before Lenin, before Stalin wasn't also that great. But somehow the Yidden were able to practice Yiddishkeit. There were yeshivas. Kids were able to go to school. There were, there was already issues beforehand, but then came communism, and especially the Yevsektia, the Jewish part of the uh, rulers of Russia. So they wanted to put an end to all Jewish uh, life, the Jewish religious life. So, so what happened was obviously the previous Rebbe did not agree to any of this. But the problem was that at that time, what would happen? Okay, so what are you going to do? You're going to open up a school for children. You're going to have teachers. They're going to close down the shop. Not just that they're going to close down the yeshiva, but they're going to send right away. They're going to send the teacher off to Siberia, or maybe just shoot them right on the spot. At that point, there was actually the Yevsektia, the Jewish part of the country of the establishment. They were going way overboard in the way they were reacting. So they didn't even want the Jews to have the Jewish teachers to have any jail time or something. They just wanted to shoot them right on the spot because they knew that if they send these people to, let's say, Moscow or something like that, they might just be okay. Maybe they'll be in jail for a short period of time, but the Sektia knew that these Yidden, especially the Chassidim, have this great adults, this great huh?
Funny, funny.
Oh, it's working. This great uh, backbone, and we're not going to stand back, or we're going to just continue. So they knew, okay, they're going to shoot them right on the spot. But then, so what happened was, a teacher, you have a teacher, and well, there's different cities. They close down the schools, they close down the mikvahs, they close down the shuls, and then the Frierdiker Rebbe finds out about this with his whole group, and then he sends one of his students to that city to open up a mikvah, maybe open up a shul, maybe become a shochet. Now, with this knowing that this person is probably going to also go to the gulag or maybe shot right away, and to what's going to happen, but then he goes to jail. They get another guy, another chassid to be another teacher. Now, it wasn't even always chassidim, sometimes even non-chassidim. It was just anyone that was ready to go on Mesiras Nefesh for simply teaching children Aleph phase was already sent. Imagine what's going on over here, and um, just in the natural way of things, there was no way of knowing that this is going to come out, that the Hasidim will come out ahead. It seemed like this will just continue for sure for generations to come. But no, we have to stand firm. This is what needs to be done, and good, because what's going to happen if we don't have any schools or anything? What's going to happen to all the what's going to happen to Yiddishkeit? There's millions of Yidden in Russia, and no one's stepping up to the plate. So what are we going to do? There were many Yidden, that many from Yidden at that point. But what are we supposed to do? We can't just go on Mesiras Nefesh for our kids to learn Aleph Beis. So we're going to send our kids to Shkola. We're not going to go to Siberia. And anyways, you can find Teirim for this, for that. But no, the Frierdiker Rebbe said, no, this is what we're going to do, and fine. So imagine what happens when the Yevsektia goes to the top. They're like, okay, we're not having any monkey business. We already know that there's no way that this is going to continue. We're not going to win unless we go to the top. If we stop, we know already that really the one behind all this is the previous Rebbe. So in order to stop this whole counter-revolutionary work, we have to go to the top. Now, they go to the previous Rebbe. They go to the previous Rebbe, and good, and they put him in jail. Now, at the point, there was no way to know that he was going to get freed. There was like, even if we look in the story of his memoir, the previous Rebbe wrote down his a lot of his life story. He had a journal, so we have the story, and we see that even the first night, just by divine providence, he walked in one hallway instead of another hallway. When he walked when they brought him to the jail, if he would have continued walking down one hallway and opened the door, over there was already what's called a gun.
The place for the death sentence.
What's a shooting
Firing squad.
firing squad? Yeah, right there was a firing squad. Why? Because the Sektia knew that, okay, we gotta, as soon as we get him in, we gotta take care of it, because probably there will be uh, um, some some uh, some pushback. He's a famous rabbi, and
Follower.
right, and they probably have connections in this country, that country. So, and even Russia itself, the 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 I mean, maybe Stalin, at least by then, maybe he was already so paranoid that he's scared of everybody. But for sure, the uh, the people that were so into making sure that Yiddishkeit don't doesn't continue, that was really just the people, the Jews themselves that were in the government. So they wanted to get past everything. They wanted just to have the firing squad. So even then, that first night, he walked in one hallway instead of the other one, and he just had an urge to sit down. So he moved to another hallway, and he sat down over there for a little bit. Someone walked over to him afterwards and said, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "I don't know. I just came in, and I'm just sitting here."
Close to Chabad.
No, some random um some random person in the jail. You know, so a random guard, and they're like, "Oh, actually, it's a good idea. Yeah, if you would have walked over there, it would have been a firing squad. Like, if not, okay." So at that time, there was no way of knowing what's going to happen. And then, what does the previous Rebbe do? While he's in jail, the entire time he is standing firm to like a, an unbelievable amount. He only speaks in Yiddish to the guards, saying that to you guys that you know Yiddish, so I'm going to speak in Yiddish. Now, all these people have guns on them, and there's like there's no bureaucracy over there. Nothing, or there is, but really anyone could do whatever they want. Anyone, as long as you're in the government, you could do whatever you want. No one cares about a random citizen. No one cares about the citizen, about the country. Everyone, you could do whatever you want. As soon as you have the badge, you could do whatever you want. There's nothing's really going to happen. If anyone would have just, and you see from all the stories how many times he was beaten up, the Frierdiker Rebbe was beaten up for. It wasn't like there was any. They had to go and answer for it by some higher guard, and did whatever they want. So no, the previous Rebbe is going to stand firm. He spoke in Yiddish. Now for example, on Shabbos, they wanted to make a mug. There was a thing that they had to take a mug shot, take a picture. Now they came up with this on Shabbos, obviously, right? Shabbos is an issue with taking pictures. Shalom Aleichem. I said taking pictures on Shabbos. What's wrong? You don't know? No, what's wrong with taking pictures? Shabbos camera. A Shabbos camera. But then how do you touch the camera on Shabbos?
A boy taking a picture.
Put gloves. Put gloves.
A boy is taking a
right. So what happens? But then what is he walks? They walk in, and the Frierdiker Rebbe is in the middle of davening. He has a talus. No, he has a talus on. He's in the middle of davening, and he was up to the part of davening that he wasn't able to talk during that part of davening. So what does he do? He looks at them and he just motions them to leave. You understand what's going on? Like don't you know who you are, who's in charge? Like, don't you know? And they keep on telling him. And they keep on telling him, do you know like what's going on over here? Like one mentioned, like he starts twirling the gun on the table, and he says, what this little toy has made many people talk. Like they their whole game their whole game is to get the person so paranoid that they're going to say whatever they want. They're going to say anything just to get out of the anxiety that they're going through. Like they had all the tactics all ready.
Of course.
And so yeah, so this is what's going on. Imagine such an amazing thing. So he comes away. So then they come back and he's like, what are we supposed to do? So then by the time they get to the mugshot, he puts together his yarmulke. He keeps his Mazel tov. Oh, Mazel tov, Mazel tov. Wow. Are you good Beis Tammuz? Yeah. So then finally you get to the mugshot, and no, So he moves his talus katan in a way that it's all the parts of it is being seen, even the side, like all the parts of the tzitzis. There is a picture of I don't know that mugshot, but there is a picture of the Fidik Rebbe with his talus katan fully like around. So imagine, and they're like, we don't have like we're not used to having mugshots with talus katan on. Like they're like just it's unbelievable to them that someone could have the audacity to talk like this to the Russian government. But no, like this is he's standing firm, and this is what needs to be done. Torah is important. Torah is real. Mitzvahs are real, and good. If you need to kill me, good. Like that's not even the issue. This is what I'm standing firm, and that's it. So, and this is going on for during the interrogation. The way it works is that there's a bunch of questions, and you need to answer them, and then you need to sign it on the bottom. So, what happens? Not everyone wants to answer all the questions. So, what they answer as many questions as they could, but then they have to sign it. So they sign it, and then afterwards, the guards just write whatever they want in the parts, and then they claim, "Oh, you signed it. Oh, great." So what the Fide Rebbe, what he did, he crossed out all the lines that he didn't want to write, he didn't want to answer. And then the lady that's there, like to hand over to her, like she's like so oismet, she's so she's taken aback that someone could even do such a. So then they continue. They try to imagine so, and then what happens during those few days? The Hasidim put themselves in such danger they put their own lives on the line to try to get the Frierdiker Rebbe not to be to be acquitted. They put their own lives on what had happened. Hasidim, including a lot of it was actually the Rebbe, our Rebbe, but many Hasidim in general sent letters to with their names to different countries, to different municipalities, to try to put pressure on the Russian government. And this was the way it worked back then, especially anyone that had anything to do with Lubavitch is automatically gonna find if there's gonna be any excuse to put this person away. So the one thing that they wouldn't do is to put their name on it, to put their Yomtiv, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov,
Oh, Shmuel.
Shmulik, Mazel Tov. Yeah. He was in Canada. Right, yeah. In Canada. Yosef, my bunkmate. Son was in my bunk. His grandson is Yosef Yitzchak. Yosef Yitzchak. Wow. Beautiful name, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. Oh, the kid's name. Yeah. So what happens? The whole Lubavitch starts trying to get the Frierdiker Rebbe safe. Now they put their name on the letters. They call up with their name, all these things with their names. Why? On one hand, it makes a bigger deal because if you're going to put your name on it, so then people realize, hey, there's someone in Russia that's trying to say some jumped. So what happens? Hasidim put their life on the line for the Rebbe, for the previous Rebbe. What do? They put their name on the letters to all these different municipalities. Why? Because on one hand, when let's say the German government finds out that there's someone that's within Russia that puts their name on a letter, then they're like, hey, this person really means business. Because usually they're going to put anonymous on it. Because as soon as someone puts a name on a letter going out of Russia, automatically they're flagged by the government. Like, hey, you are siding with this counter-revolutionary, so then you should also go to jail. So then all these countries realize, like, hey, this is a very big deal. So then within a few days already the the death sentence is acquitted to 10 years hard labor. And then within a short period of time, it's already acquitted to 3 years of exile. So then it gets to Gimel Tammuz, against the Gimel Tammuz, which is when the previous Rebbe was able to actually leave jail. But then he goes to exile. And then within a few days, he was already notified by Yud Beis Tammuz that he's able to actually go back home. It took a day because there was because of the government holiday, and and imagine what was going on. On Yud Beis Tammuz, when they acquitted him, they were so scared that he's only gonna go out of jail by the next day that they wanted to get him in writing. The government wanted to get him in writing that the reason why he's being held an extra day is not for our fault. It's because of the legal holiday. That's really why. Meaning they were so scared, there was so much pressure to leave him out. They were so scared of him being hurt by that one day that um, they're gonna they want him to sign off. They want him to sign that that's the reason why he's there for another day. So the whole story got overturned by such a 180 that it was that they were so scared they wanted to take care of him so much by that point in time. And then really after Yud Beis Tammuz, the government didn't want him to be in Russia anymore. Well, um, really, even after he got out, Yud Beis Tammuz, the government was going to try to find a way to get him out, to get him to jail again. The Yusektia, the Jewish part of the government, would want to find another way to get him out, to get him to jail, or just to kill him outright. So it was getting very dangerous for him. So the only his influence.
Him, and they were scared of their own jobs.
Not no. It was that he was scared of him that he's gonna do whatever he's gonna go back to this, and it's true that he's gonna do whatever he wants. He's gonna continue having schools and everything, and their whole they took their religious fervor, their Yiddishkeit, their neshama, they took their will to do the right thing, and they flipped it upside down. They took their religious fervor to be against Yiddishkeit. So they wanted they want so the only way to get out of it is to have the Frierdiker Rebbe leave Russia. And the Frierdiker Rebbe told everybody at the time that really everyone is thinking that he's running away, but no, this is all on purpose. This is all with a plan. And really, after the previous Rebbe left Russia, really it was just a matter of time till he ended up in America.
Was not
Really, even in Riga, the previous Rebbe wrote that Riga is a temporary residence, meaning, and then even when the previous Rebbe came to America, at that point of time, really America was another type of Gauls. In Russia, the Gauls was that you need to stand firm for olive base. But in America, it's completely the opposite. You could do whatever you want. And if you could do whatever you want, so then you could do things that are not Al also. And besides, there is, I mean, for example, Shabbos, like even or especially the Jewish employers would tell the employees that if you don't come to work on Shabbos, leave Monday, don't come back on Monday.
A lot of people just work Monday to Friday and they have to look on
That so it was very, very hard. Not everyone did that. Not everyone. Imagine the serious number, the feeling.
Is any other sin, just about.
Imagine the feeling. Imagine the feeling of being evicted from a home because of Shabbos. So it was a different thing, and and we see that by now many Yidden. I mean, there's already whatever. We're not here to talk about such things. Everyone should do the right thing, and but the shaila is so this toikif that the Yidden had in Mesiras Nefesh, that there was a possibility of Mesiras Nefesh back then in Russia. It wasn't but not everyone had this Mesiras Nefesh, but there were many that were Meiser Nefesh for their children to not go to the Russian schools. And even now, I mean, you see some of them are still alive. Like you could talk to them, like
Behind the seats and shows them.
what?
It was still in the rabbi.
Yeah.
I once by mistake got into a union and read it. It's such a long time.
Yeah, the people that helped out the Frierdiker Rebbe with the schooling, with teaching. Not everyone was Chabad. That were putting up Chadar things. It wasn't just the Chabad. Yeah. So now we're getting to America. Now the question is, okay, so if we look back in time, okay, if it was us at that point of time, maybe we wouldn't send our kids to the underground schools. Maybe we would care about our livelihood and things like that. Maybe we don't have the possibility of having that mysterious stuff. But the truth is, and we know that really, so what's the difference? If we look at something as Mesiras Nefesh, if we tap into that part of our neshama where Mesiras Nefesh is really what we're going to do, we do know inside ourselves that if, let's say, if someone comes with a gun, God forbid, and says, "Oh, either bow down to this idol or get killed," we know that we might actually say that no, we're not going to bow down to the idol. There is within us, every yid has that innate feeling that okay, if the buck stops here, we're going to do what Hashem wants. Yes, we're not going to actually become a non-Jew, even if our life is at stake. Fine. But we see that other times then we don't think that something is so catastrophic, such a thing that will cut us away from it to a certain um, level against Hashem. But so then we see, okay, fine, it's not that big of a deal. That's the atzas hayetz. That's what our Yetzer Hara tells us, or that's what we make ourselves think that okay, it's not such a big deal. Okay, if there's a gun to our head against the bowing down to our idol, okay, fine. But if someone puts a gun to our head about Amin Yishmei Rabba or something like that, okay, fine, not Amin Yishmei Rabba. Like, what's the end of the world? It's not the end of the world. And really, in America, we see that the things that we deal with are really very small things. Like, what's this way or that? Okay, fine, it's davening with me, not davening with me. Okay, I mean, if you look into halacha, it's not the end of the world. That's what I Yitzhahara tends to tell us. That we're dealing with a lot of no big deals. But then what happens is slowly, 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 these small deals become big deals. Now, what the Rebbe wants us to do is to not not be so immature, not to think like, oh, something that's such a big deal, fine, so then it's a big deal. But these small little things, okay, like the whole thing of shlichus, what's going on? A shliach is going to go to some random city, um, and what's he going to do already? Is he going to be putting together a kollel? Is he going to have a kollel for mitziyanim? Is he going to teach Gemara all day? Is he going to like? He's going to put together rabbanim? What's he going to do already? What's he going to do? He maybe will have a minyan. Maybe he'll have a school, and even the school will probably be elementary school.
Maybe
If you're lucky, it'll be elementary school. And even then, what's the school going to even do? Maybe the kids that go to their school will, with time, will remind themselves that they went to a Jewish school and therefore they won't marry a goy, if they're lucky. So if that's the case, is that such a big deal? You would rather just sit in a Jewish community, stay in a ghetto, in a man-made ghetto, and you learn your own Torah, do your own mitzvahs, maybe make sure that your own children are Shemer Torah mitzvah and good. Those are things that are more important, you would think. Those are a much bigger deal. But no, the Rebbe says that no, the Rebbe wants us to think even the small things are big deals. Because really, if you look at it, what was the Frierdiker Rebbe doing? He was also doing small things, so to speak. What was he doing? He was making sure that children are able to teach Aleph, are able to learn Aleph base. Even the thing of children going to Shkola, they were still able to go back home. So, the parents could have found an excuse and say, like, okay, so I'll teach our kid, I'll make sure that my kid will be able to put on tefillin when he gets to bar mitzvah or marry Jewish. I'll make sure about the big stuff, Shabbos and things like that. I'll make sure about the big things. But what? That the kids should learn Aleph base the way a Jew is supposed to learn Aleph base. So that's what I'm gonna put my whole life for that. No, that's not such a big deal. But no, the Frierdiker Rebbe says no, no, we have to stand firm. And then he made a big deal about those little things. So really, in our own life, we have to also look at the small things as big deals. We could look at it, and it's not just like the whole thing about the Rebbe making a big deal about not giving away land in Eretz Yisrael. What was the whole argument? If if the other countries come to Israel and say, you know what, we'll have peace if we give away a little bit of if you give us a little bit of land. Obviously, this never happened either way, because the conversation didn't. It was whatever. That wasn't really the conversation. But if you would say that yes, that's what was happening, so then the obvious, the what you would say at first glance is like, okay, so give them the little city on the side. But as long as I have, Tel Aviv or Yerushalayim, okay, so I have the big cities. I have where everyone lives. Okay, so give them a little Gush Katif or whatever, some random place. No one lives there anyway, so good. Maybe a handful of people, but they could always move somewhere else. But no, the Rebbe was saying that no, we don't give anything. We have to stand firm even with the smallest things. So that's talking about Eretz Yisrael in general. But really, in a Yid, by Yid is the same thing. What are we gonna? We're gonna wait till we have to deal with the big stuff. What happens is that the little stuff become big stuff and good. That's we already know that from Tanya that the way the Yetzer Hara works is that it looks for things that a person will think that is not a big deal and say, oh, small things, and then small things become big things. Really, that's already in Pirkei Avos. So really, even though you would think that what Yud Beis Tammuz, this is almost 100 years since Yud Beis Tammuz of 1927, and anyways, we're already living in a different country. That what's really the problems that we're having. Obviously, they're big problems, and because we could always find what to complain about. But in the big scheme of things, it's not like even the threats on our lives to a certain extent is not to that level that just a few generations or even a generation ago it was very commonplace for you to. But on the other hand, we still have a lot of work. There's still we have to, what we need to do is to look at the small things that are not really that big of a deal at that level. We have to also stand firm in those things. Now, the question is, how do we get to them? Because what's more natural is really when things are a big deal, then we go full strength. Like when you're in a tug of war, when you're in a tug of war, right? The only time that you use your full strength is when the other side is at full strength. But as soon as there's no pushback, so then you could slack off because there's nothing blocking you. But then what happens is that as soon as you slack off, then the other side starts pushing back because they see that there's nothing pushing them, right? So it's really just a paradigm shift that is needed to realize that even the small things are also important. Why? Why? Because even if you're going to think that these small things are small things, but really when we're looking at who we're dealing with, those are big deals. What meaning? What makes something a big? What makes the something a big deal or small, or something is small? So okay, so you could look at a mitzvah as a big deal, a mitzvah as a small. Okay, so we could have this argument about if a mitzvah is so needed or not needed, is something worthy of Mesiras Nefesh or not. Okay, so we could have this conversation. But if we're dealing with the people themselves are a big deal. Who was the Frierdiker? The Frierdiker Rebbe was fighting for mitzvahs. The Frierdiker Rebbe was fighting for the Yidden of Russia. The Yidden of Russia. What was going to happen if there wasn't going to be any Jewish schools for the Jewish children? What will happen to the Jewish children? And the Jewish children are what's important, not this person's life or that person, not even the Frierdiker Rebbe's life. What was important was the Jewish children. So that's what was important, not even the mitzvahs themselves. We could have had the argument if the mitzvahs are worthy of giving up our lives. But for the children, for the for continuity of Yiddishkeit, for sure is important, and for sure for the Yiddish children are important. So we could say the same thing about America too, and therefore you can have shluchim go to certain cities that they might not even have the infrastructure for themselves to be able to learn Torah all day or to do all the mitzvahs that they would like to do. But no, what's important is what about the Jewish children that are in that city, and for those Jewish children, even the small, so to speak, small mitzvahs are also important. Even just teaching Aleph base, that in the grand scheme of things, okay, maybe it's not going to change them fully and things like that. But even that is important. Why? Because the Jewish children are important. That's what's important. So that in that case, there's no real difference between Russia or America because it's the same Yidden. And it's not just, but then also we have to realize that it's not just okay. So if you would say that the Jewish children that are living in some random city, okay, so that's a big deal because what's going to happen if you don't have a shliach over there? So they'll go to public school, and who are their friends? Their friends won't be, they're the only Jews in town. So what's the chances of them to be Shemer Torah Mitzvah and maybe not even marry Jewish? And maybe what's going to happen with their children? Maybe not even be Jewish. So okay, so then for them, okay, so then Aleph base is important. So for them, so it makes sense for someone to go on shlichus to some random city. So because even though he's gonna not be able to daven with the minyan or not be able to learn, so okay, so for them, then it makes sense to be meiser nefesh on his own ruchnius, on his own Torah mitzvahs, to for his own Yiddishkeit, just for those Yidden. But in a city that already has the infrastructure of the Yiddishkeit, has shuls and has yeshivas and has family and everything over, do I need to care so much about every stupid little thing that that seemingly a stupid little thing, but al pi halacha is something? Should I really care about that? Every single part of halacha, is that something that I need to care about? Is some little thing, is something that I learned in Shulchan Aruch, maybe not even a Shulchan Aruch, some minhag. Do I need to put my whole strength into this thing? Do I need to care about that? Do I need to care about everything about my children? Is that what's important? So what Yud Beis Tammuz tells us is that yes, because because we are important and our children are important to the so much that the Frierdiker Rebbe would put his whole life on the line for every little thing. And even with while he's in jail, he's going to care about speaking in Yiddish and to hold stand firm against all these people. That no, this shows us that every single part of Torah is very, very crucial, is very important. Yes, we have to ask a Rav if it's pikuach nefesh or not. If it's a pikuach nefesh, fine. But no, these things are very, very crucial, very, very important. And that's what, and the way to do this is two parts. One is to connect to the Rebbe. And the most important part of connecting to the Rebbe is by learning his teaching, by learning his chassidus. Because what happens when we learn his chassidus, he he puts himself he puts himself in his chassidus. He puts his whole self in what he's saying. He really cares when he talks and when he writes. He he really cares about what he's saying. He's pulling his full self into what he's saying. So then when we learn what he's saying, so then we could tap in to that to that way of looking at it. Because what was happening, the Frierdiker Rebbe was looking at Yiddishkeit and at Yiddish children and at Torah and as at Russia in a way of a Rebbe, the way a Rebbe looks at it. But he wasn't thinking that why is he acting this way is because he's the Rebbe. He's thinking what's going through his mind is that seemingly is that he wasn't saying that this is something that the Rebbe should do. What he was saying is that this is what a Yid is supposed to do. And this is really how Hasidim felt from Yud Beis Tammuz. This is how they took Yud Beis Tammuz. What happened after Yud Beis Tammuz? After they knew what was going on, what the Hasidim knew what was going on. It was a complete miracle that the Frierdiker Rebbe came out of prison. So what this showed the Hasidim is that, hey, we could do this too. We could also stand firm. So we will also not send our children to the Russian school, and we're also gonna hide what?
Show by example.
Right. So we're also gonna make sure that our children will do the right thing. So they didn't say, hey, this is a Rebbe's story. This is a Rebbe's thing that Rebbes do such things, that Rebbes stand firm against such a country. No, they said that no, this is the way a Yid is supposed to. This is the way a Yid should work. And the previous Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe himself, was demanding of Hasidim to act the same way. So what does this mean? That when we learn the Rebbe's Hasidus, when we learn something from the Rebbe, and we then internalize it, so then we could tap into this to the way the Rebbe says the way we could tap in to acting the way that the Rebbe wants a Yid should act. What the Rebbe says a Yid, what is part of a Yid. So then there's a possibility of in Russia to act this way, and also in America to act this way, to care very much about even the small things, and yeah, and to stand firm in everyone's own life. Everyone knows where they are at this present moment, and everyone knows what the Rebbe demands of us, and if we don't know, so then we could open up what he says, and then we'll know what he demands, what he expects. And he also explains about how it's already innate in us. It's not even, if we're in on that mode, so then it'll make sense. It won't be so out of the ordinary. Even if at this point it seems so outlandish to act this way. But if we tap into the Rebbe light, the way the Rebbe thinks, so then it'll be hard, but it won't be out of our grasp. Because besides that the Rebbe shows us how things are able to be done, he also gives us the power to do it. Even just by his example. Like what happened in Russia? Just by his example, it was already enough for many Hasidim to take on the challenge. And they didn't even know if they would leave Russia, like even though many of them left in the 1940s, but for sure in the 1920s and 30s, they didn't know that this was going to happen. And after the 1940s, it was again hard to leave, and there were many Hasidim that stood firm. Um, so yeah, um, there was a niggin that was um, there's many nigunim that the previous Rebbe really liked. It was sung many times by his Farbrengens. So yeah, let's sing it. It's called the Beinoni. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, uh, uh, yeah. Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. You know. You know. Yeah, you know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I love her. You know. Um, so when the Friedrich Rebbe was notified that he was getting released on Yud Tammuz, so at the time there was the back and forth about like we mentioned before that it was a legal holiday, so there was back and forth that he would have to wait another day. So because of this back and forth, so there was already the people that found out about it. So it wasn't the time yet to jump up and down. But then there was a chassid, Reb Elio Chaim Altes, that found out about it just on its own, that the Frierdiker Rebbe was released. So from his perspective, it was like completely he went completely out of his kalim, out of his normal self. He went completely ballistic. So he took a bottle of mashka and he didn't drink, but he just he danced around the home that the Frierdiker Rebbe was living in, singing in Niggin. Now he knew Russian from because he worked with many random people, so he knew Russian, and he had a song. He had a song that he knew. So there, when the Rebbe mentioned the story by a Farbrengen, the Rebbe said that probably there's people here that know Russian. There's probably people that know the niggin, so probably they should sing it. So no one sang it. No one was singing it, and then the Rebbe said that if it would have been Simchas Torah, then he would have taught it. Because at that point of time, the Rebbe saying the Rebbe taught many Nigunim on Simchas Torah, like Hu Elikenu, Sama L'chol Nafshi, or many of the famous Babatur Nigunim, Adon Bartanu, right? So this could have been so. If that's the case, this could have been one of the Nigunim that the Rebbe taught. But so it's niet nikavo, which means that there's no one. It's in muvadin. There's no one other than Hashem. So imagine what's going on. That what what a chassid felt when the Frierdiker Rebbe was released was that really Hashem runs the world. There's no one other than Hashem. With so much, he was so overwhelmed at the time that he sang this song. He danced around with his song, which means what was going on? The Frierdiker Rebbe was saying that Torah is real and mitzvahs are real and Yidden are real, and Russia was saying that no, it's not over here. Russia is real, and then the Frierdiker Rebbe won. He was released from prison. So what this shows is that Hashem exists and Torah is real and mitzvahs is real even in Russia. So what our job is, Mashiach wasn't fully revealed. It just from at that point of time in Tafresh Beis in 1927. So obviously this means that we have some work to do ourselves. So what our job is to show that Hashem exists, not just in Leningrad or in Petersburg, or in Russia, but also in Flatbush, in at 17th. No, on Avenue J and 17th, right?
Yeah.
On Avenue J and 17th, and wherever everyone of you and everyone specifically wherever you live, to show that Hashem exists in our homes. Right? That's why we put on why we have a mezuzah on our door. It's to show that it's Hashem's home, not just our home, not just our home. We invite Hashem into our home. That it's Hashem's home, to show that Hashem even exists also in our home. So that's our job to show. And then when we show that Hashem exists everywhere, so then automatically, everywhere, everything will know that Hashem is the one that creates it and sustains it, and that's automatically the time of Mashiach. So that's our job today. And if Chas v'Shalom Mashiach doesn't come today, then we'll have to do it tomorrow too. But that's our job. So let's sing off this niggin, and then we'll go to Meyer.
There's some Russian music.
Nebayus yankikavo inivierun hikavo tolkavo gadnavo Нет, не боюсь я никого, только Бога одного. Нет, не боюсь я никого. Am I singing it right? Бога одного. Ай-яй-яй, 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 ай-яй-яй. Ay, 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 ay. Get, gavo, gavo, navo, ay, 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 ay. Get, gavo, navo, ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Yes, whoever didn't make a bracha trina, obviously will make a bracha.